Check, check, check. If you're hearing the sound of my illustrious voice, that means you're now tuned into chapter 165 of the Introverted Intuition podcast. My name is Jeff, aka Amazon bestselling author, aka the Petty Podcaster. As always, I got my brother with me, CR908. Say what's up to the people.
And if you couldn't tell, there's a huge sense of humility in the room right now. It's your boy CR, aka Conscious Rap, aka Chocolate Rob, representing Jump Out the Frame, JOTF Records. What's good?
Before we get into this episode and introduce our guests and get to this amazing story we have under for you guys, I just want to remind you that we are sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a service that provides online therapy. The way 2020 was, the way 2021 may be going for some people out there. Therapy is definitely a great medium to stay sane and stay intact amongst all this wild bullshit we got going on. So if you go to betterhelp.com/introvert and use the code introvert at checkout, you can get 10% off your first month. Again, that's betterhelp.com/introvert. Use the code introvert at checkout to get 10% off your first month. And we're going to get into this next sponsor.
To all current and future podcast creators, Tandem is a new podcast hosting platform built by podcasters and for podcasters. They offer hosting, advanced analytics, editing services, and a new way to connect to your fellow podcasting community. Tandem knows that podcasters are connectors. We want to start conversations. Their real-time member chat lets you tell your friends that you loved their last episode, and it allows you to go ahead and connect with other podcasters, and we all know podcasters make the best guests. Visit tandempodcasting.com today to learn more. That's tandempodcasting.com.
Yeah. And we have a special guest with us today. Through the app Clubhouse, I was able to discover this guest and get a brief, I don't even call it like a sliver. I feel like you kind of talked about your story a bit in the room that we were in. I think it was a room related to authors and writing and stuff like that. And she mentioned that she wanted to write a book about her story, and she really talked about it during her pitch. And it really intrigued me, and I had to get her on the podcast to learn more. And yeah, just get a vibe for who she is and why she is the way she is. So yeah, please introduce yourself to the people.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Shayna Conde. You can find me at Shayna RC on Instagram and SRCONDEE on Twitter. Yeah, I can't say that I have a whole lot of things to add. You guys have great paragraph intros to yourselves. And I'm like, wait a minute.
It took I can't even lie, I didn't take that long to develop that, but it's become more and more of a natural extension of just our beings doing this the more and more we podcast.
Okay.
So I appreciate that compliment very much, because it's I feel like we kind of sound kind of crazy sometimes when we do our little intros.
Yeah, sometimes, you can be a little slurry because of the wine, or,
But truly delicious. I enjoy this red. Here.
If they're out there, this happens to be any sponsors listening to this podcast. This is Foxhorn Vineyards Merlot. This is my favorite wine. It's $8.99 for this huge ass bottle. So it's great quality and great pricing.
So if you out there,
yeah. So like I mentioned in the intro, you have an amazing story, but I want to wait before we get to that.
we waiting? Okay.
I want to genuinely know, how are you? 2020 was very insane. 2021 has been a bit insane for most people. I'm not sure for you in particular, but I want to know, how are you today in this moment? How do you feel? How's 2021 been for you?
Well, first off, thank you so much for asking that. So 2020 into 2021 was a whirlwind. We'll obviously dive deeper into this as I talk about my story, but I had to do a massive career change from 2020 to 2021. I was working in the entertainment industry pre-pandemic, corona. And that switch was really, it was a hard switch for me, just because, you enter these industries and you're like, oh, this is where I have an idea of where I want to be. I have an idea of what I want to do. And then all of a sudden something completely outside of yourselves happen, and you just have to realign yourself to something else. So I had to do this really big shift as to, what else can I not only do well, but what else can give me joy? What else can fill myself with what I am doing? And so I went from working in entertainment, doing a lot of commercial modeling, a lot of acting, a lot of, in-person theater, to all of a sudden being a kind of full-time writer at this point. So that was a fast shift that I had to do, but I can truly say I'm really happy doing it now, and now I'm just kind of like stretching my feet, trying to figure out what's up. Got to work for some really cool publications, which I'm like really excited about, which is kind of perfect that I didn't know when we first connected on Clubhouse. I didn't know exactly what your podcast was about, but after looking into it, I was like, yo, this aligns perfectly with what I've been writing about. I don't know if you know this. I don't think I told you actually. But like, I've written for Anti-Racism Daily, I've written for Well and Good, I've written for Stylist Magazine, all about not only anti-racism, but specifically about Black wellness and mental health. So
this is perfectly aligned. I always say the universe provides.
I did not know this, so yeah, this is great.
How things work. So here we are. But yeah, like this space right now makes a lot of sense for not only what I have been doing, but what I would like to continue to do when it comes to my writing career and my own personal growth.
Did you write prior to making this adjustment? Like, or how often did you write prior to this new reality?
So in undergrad, I had a creative writing and music industry double major. I went into that double major thinking I wanted to be a lyricist. So, and then I realized the music industry is not the place for me. So
why? I want to hear this because I'm in the music industry, so I just wondered.
Okay, no, that's totally fair. Real talk, there's a burp like in the midst of my throat right now, so
Let
if
it
it comes
fly.
out, I can't get it out necessarily, but if it comes out, my whole badness. But okay, so phase one, the undergraduate program that I was in was mega white, like dripping with mayonnaise. So
Okay.
Helmets was heavy.
We still want that helmet sponsorship, by the way. We'll take that. We'll take that if it's on the way.
Listen, it was just, I can't even say that it was spicy. I can't even say there was olive oil involved. So
Gross.
yeah, it was a dry ass sandwich. So
pastrami.
I'm just thinking like the worst sandwich ever in life. Like the bread is just not even ready to be eaten. Okay.
Like maybe 3 days stale, kind of a ginger ale.
Smelly, stinky. Yeah, please. Let's move past this. Because I'm actually kind of hungry too. All I'm thinking about is a nasty ass sandwich.
Okay. My whole badness. I didn't mean to ruin dinner. It's not brunch time. You know what? We're moving past sandwich talk. So,
please.
She's clearly hungry, everybody.
If I'm a little irritable, that's why. So if I get spicy, I'm sorry, I'm hungry.
That being said, Hellman's if you out there. So
back to this program.
Yeah, oh, there we go. So, that program, the toxicity of that program, there were some really good individual people, but when it came to my experience as a Black female person wanting to enter the entertainment industry, I saw a lot of what I could only assume would be perpetuated in a professional environment. In terms of my voice not being fully heard, my presence not being fully wanted. So I'm like, okay, I don't like this. I don't necessarily want to put myself in these spaces. What else could I do? At the same time, I was also in an English program where, mind you, once again, only Black person in most, if not, no. When it came to the English program, I was the only person in every room I entered, only Black person in every room I entered. But there were at least critical conversations about race, about intersectional identity when it came to literature, when it came to authors, when it came to art. Some of these things were happening in terms of like music history, in terms of, you know, the history of jazz, blues, gospel, but when it came to the industry aspect, the business aspect of music, I didn't see that, which was what turned me into another direction. So that was why the music industry didn't quite work out for me. But it was also something that kept the door open for me for English and writing.
You know what's funny and interesting about that? I deliberately avoided like studying music through college because I knew that would have I think it would have messed up my taste for the music industry too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I deliberately went to school for psychology, something totally outside of music, because I felt I can draw too, like I can draw and paint. So I didn't want to go to school for that because I knew that the studio classes were like 6 hours long. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yo, to be forced in that environment and to be amongst people that I probably might not relate with. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, I'm glad I took the path of just figuring that shit out.
Yeah, like that makes a lot of sense to me, and I that's something that I wish I had known before I stepped in. I don't know about you guys, but pre-undergrad, I didn't have a lot of Black people in academic spaces. Edit, I didn't have any Black people in academic spaces.
Wow.
So same.
Yeah, same. Yeah, like, yeah. Continue. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I never had a Black person as a classmate until my sophomore, junior year of college. And I never had a Black teacher until my sophomore year of college. So I didn't know what it was like to not be the only. Yeah.
Okay, so I meant for me. Okay, students were always present in terms of Blackness. Teachers, not really as much. And I don't like. So how did that feel? Was that like kind of like a culture shock in a sense? Like, how did that feel when you were in those moments and you look around and you're like, you don't look like me. You do you. Who are you? Like, how did that feel? Did it develop some discomfort, some maybe fear?
I mean, it's hard to separate that from what you have just established as normal, right? So I just took me being the only as normal, which is really dangerous, especially for anybody, but especially as kids, because it creates this really dangerous mentality of you're special, right? Like you're Black and you are academically advanced, thus you are better than, right? And I didn't realize that a lot of that had been internalized and a lot of that had been perpetuated by my teachers, right?
Because in a way you were the token.
Yes.
I can relate.
So like, so tell me if this also relates. So when it comes to like talking about, truly all of the books just went on in my head. But when it came to talking about the like lone Black character in certain books that are canonically a part of, the English canon, or talking about Black history, the teacher would be like, so, tell me, what is your specific perspective?
Because clearly you're the representative for your people.
Exactly.
You know every detail of every bit of history that we've ever experienced.
Yes.
So you must be a historian. You know all the answers.
What do you and other Black people think?
Exactly. But like what you say is now word to me and these 25 other students.
Right.
Because you must know.
Right.
And then you was like 13 to 15 or whatever is like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta let me button up for the Black community.
Yeah.
So
represent.
You want to be down, right? You gotta know the history.
Exactly, but like you out there and you're like, man, I just learned how to like, I don't know, insert something here yesterday.
Right.
So I just got used to that. I just said, oh, okay, so I just gotta say something. The whites will believe me, and I gotta make sure that this all aligns to somebody. And then I get to school, I get to undergrad, and all of a sudden, this is the first Black person that I had a class with became my current best friend. We had a music history class, and we ended up sitting next to each other. Mind you, we met each other briefly before that, but we were sitting next to each other, and we had this teacher, white, cis, male, and I just vividly remember him saying, Bach is the greatest composer of all time. And he kept repeating that. And with each time he repeated it, I just like kept writing it, but then with each time that he said it, I wrote it in like a different thing, and I underlined it, and then I like added an arrow, and then I was just, And she was sitting next to me, and after I realized, oh, this is gonna be a repetitive thing, after he would say, he'd be like, Bach is the greatest composer. I'd look at her and say, did you know that Bach is the greatest composer? So, and then we created this like really cool friendship.
Beautiful.
So I don't fully remember what the question was.
You know, you lost me, but I was really there. As you were telling this story, I feel like I was there with you in the class.
Thank you.
Yo.
So I guess that the question was specifically how your year has been going in 2021. So that was the question. I mean, clearly it's better because you're past those days. I mean, you learned that Bach is the greatest composer of all time.
I love it, yo.
Yeah.
This is great.
This
Oh
is
my
great.
God.
This is good stuff.
What a tangent. My year has been going better. It is warmer, which helps. It is rainy, so that does not help, but 'tis warmer. Thus helps. I am here. This is nice. What else?
You should have a podcast.
Yeah.
The way you speak is like very
She's
like
hilarious,
you're like,
bro.
you
Like
know,
she is literally hilarious.
hilarious.
Like,
You know,
literally.
the
bro.
weather is warm, so things are great right now. It's like, yeah, okay.
She's like placing them.
Let me
physically,
produce your
placing the
podcast.
words down physically.
Let me produce your podcast.
Okay, listen, if you would like to, I'm really bad when it comes to, I didn't realize this growing up, but I've kind of always been a form of entertainer.
You're a Libra, of course you are.
Thank you!
Mm.
Thank you!
Yes.
Yes, and this is why we are here.
Right?
This is
the
why we are
only
here.
reason why we're here.
Yes,
To entertain.
Leo brethren.
You feel
This
me?
is why we
love
are
it.
here.
Yes.
Yeah, but like Libra, we're talking about
Oh.
Libras right now.
It's fine.
Listen, you are welcome in this space.
We're highly compatible, guys.
We are.
highly.
Yeah.
I can't see any other reason why we get along.
Y'all don't even know though.
Yeah.
We
So
recently figured this out, but anyway, yes.
I feel God gives us tests to present us with the opportunity to share our testimonies. I connected with you on Clubhouse. I don't know if it was due to God or the universe or whatever, but I felt very drawn to you, and I'm very interested in you telling the audience, I guess specifically why you're here. I don't want to say your story is the only reason why you're here on this podcast today, but it is what intrigued me to bring you on. So could you just maybe give the audience a bit of a background on what I'm talking about and what you discussed on Clubhouse?
Dope. Okay, so I'm gonna give the quickest pitch of what happened, like how we connected, pretty
Sure.
much.
I think you could do that better than me.
Oh my goodness, thank you so
I
much.
think you
I
could.
have no idea, but we're gonna try.
I'll help you.
So, Thank you. I appreciate that. So, okay, I don't know. I don't think you know this, but pre our meetup on Clubhouse, I was in another space where I had shared another writer space where I had shared what my memoir is about. To which somebody in that space said, "Listen, Shayna, real talk. You need to just go into every Clubhouse that pops up that is vaguely about writing, vaguely about storytelling. You should just go in and just share that one, like that 2-liner pitch about your story and just see what happens, because something is bound to happen every time." So that was the Clubhouse just before I entered the one with you. To which I was like, okay, we're gonna try this out. We're gonna see what's gonna happen.
Right.
So I went into the Clubhouse with you, and I just shared a little bit about truly a 2-year period of my life. So the short story is that I got accepted into Harvard University with 0 experience in the field, and then during my study abroad period at Harvard University to Moscow, Russia, I encountered assault, attempted kidnapping, all racially Oh, you didn't know this?
No, that's why I'm shocked.
Yeah.
But this is why I like to not know, so I can have the shock value.
Yeah.
Truly, like, mouth open right now. But like, real talk, I had to literally outrun kidnappers during my time in Moscow. And then I get back to Cambridge, and people just expected me. Not when I say people, I mean my professors. The institution expected me to just continue with my studies as if nothing had happened. while I had also spoken to the director of my program and said, yo, this had happened. Phase 1, you gotta let the upcoming Black students know what happened to me.
Hell yeah.
So that way they can protect themselves.
And make a decision if they want to be there or not.
Exactly. Like, you
Yeah.
gotta let people know.
Yeah.
To which she said, if you so choose to share your story with them, that's on you, but there's nothing I can do or say about that.
What?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is just the beginning. So after all of that, and then going through a 2-year program, this is now the 2nd year of honestly just dealing with PTSD in its rawest form in a highly competitive environment. I had an autoimmune breakdown just caused by the stress of this. Because mind you, West Indian background, you don't talk about the things that happen to you. You power through, you make a joke, you say pew pew. Yes. So I had this massive autoimmune breakdown, which December 31st, 2017, I was admitted into Englewood Hospital in New Jersey. And when the person who was admitting me was like, oh, so what's wrong? I said this exact sentence: I cannot feel my legs. I lost all feeling from the sternum down. And I didn't know this until a couple days later, but my spinal cord had started to deteriorate because of the stress. Yeah, oh, you saw me walk in through this door though.
Right.
Yeah.
But the stress of what had happened had caused my spinal cord to begin to deteriorate. So at this point, the neurologists were not quite sure. Oh my God, what's going on? She's so young. How is this happening? So as I was going through PT, through like therapy, and just, hoping that my body would rejuvenate, would get itself back, one of my doctors put this idea forward. Hold up, the burp is coming.
Nope. Oh.
That's the name of this
You see how I
episode,
did
The
that?
Burp. The Burp. That's the name of this
That's the
episode.
name.
It was gentle. It was soft. It was like
It was
downy,
soft.
if you
I was
will.
hoping for a bit more, I'm not gonna lie.
I thought it would be a little more ground shaking.
Yeah.
No. But you see, I like did a little at the.
Classy.
She's being polite.
Very classy.
I'm trying.
I think if it's
trying.
candid, it'll be-
Libras are classy, if you haven't noticed, doing this podcast with me every week for like the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm. I'm just reiterating everything that you have clearly already spoken.
Because it's a Libra connection.
It's a Libra connection. We are here.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, you're fantastic.
Actually, you interrupted yourself with the burp.
Probably. Oh no, I absolutely did.
Yeah.
I absolutely did. My own badness to myself.
Back to the story.
Back to the story. So one of my neurologists suggested, hey Shayna, just for the sake of trying, because at this point they were really like, we don't know, like our team does not know if you will regain the ability to walk again. Because my T1 through T5 had pretty much deteriorated. So they were like, we don't know if you can walk again, but we're gonna hope for the best, but we're putting our hands up. But we know that this can be caused by extreme stress. So if you can start to process some of whatever has happened to you pre this moment, maybe it could help. To which that began the journey of getting my mega West Indian family to open up about how what happened to me is literally part of a pattern.
In the family?
In the family.
Talk about that. Please expand.
So, mind you, I'm not going to get too deep into detail
Whatever
because
you feel
I'm going to need.
comfortable about.
Oh, no, it's not that comfortable. I'm trying to get people to. Because I am also in the process. So I've written a book.
Okay.
I've written a memoir, technically, but it's a memoir in verse. And I have fingers crossed, but there's a bookseller that lives in Paris, but she works for the US market, who seems to be interested. I'm hoping, praying. Also, if there are any agents out there, I am fully interested in speaking to you. But, yeah, so I don't want to give too much away, so that way people are like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Right.
But, so I dive into my maternal line, the women that have comprised me, pretty much. I don't know. So tell me if this if you know this / if it rings true to you. Mitochondrial DNA is something that is passed from woman to woman. Every fetus that is born that is female, like that will become female at birth, has a certain amount of eggs inside of the fetus before it is born. So in a way, I was inside of my grandmother before she knew my mother.
Yeah.
So what happened to my grandmother in Jamaica so when it comes to stress and when it comes to neurological issues, because emotions are just neurological, like impulses, right? Exactly. Like what happens in the brain that registers as emotion, as happiness, as sadness, is really just the sparking of neurons as it registers throughout the body. So a certain kind of impulse that is consistent can change the way that the body functions.
Absolutely.
So what happened to my grandmother affected me. Long before I knew about Jamaica, long before I knew about Trelawney, long before I knew about, like, I come from my maternal side anyway, comes from a long line of like farmers, of hard workers, of blue collars, of we started from the bottom, now we're here. So my grandmother used to work the marketplace with my great grandmother, and I met my great grandmother once, and she was a woman among women, and everybody said, "Yo, Shayna, you would have been best friends with our great grandmother," and I'm like, "Yeah," but I only met her once, and I was really little. So, and nobody really wants to talk about her in a realistic sense, because that involves secrets, and that involves what had happened in the mountains of Trelawney, and that involves like talking about how my great grandfather was abusive, how he beat children out of her, how my grandmother witnessed him beating children out of her, and what that does to an 8-year-old to bury their child. Full-blown trigger warning, I am so sorry. So yeah, like that was some of what started to come up, because at this point, mind you, I can't walk. I'm like 25 and I was doing fencing, I was doing like broadsword, I was doing like acrobatics, Russian acrobatics in literally Moscow, and now all of a sudden I can't walk. And then the doctors are like, okay, we're gonna need people to be real honest with you, and you're gonna need to be real honest with you, and hopefully releasing that weight will like release some things from your body to let you walk again. And then saying that to my family opened up some doors that was previously completely closed off.
So they weren't like receptive to your stress and your story when you brought it to their attention?
They were more receptive after the doctors were like,
Showing
this could save her body.
That's what I was about to say, that once they saw that there was something, some physical connection, once there was a physical response to the mental aspect of what you were experiencing. I feel like a lot of the times, Caribbean and West Indian families, that's when things get serious, right? When you get physically ill. But prevention is so much easier than treatment.
Isn't that like at the core what's wrong with like the perception of mental health in the Black community? It's not really real until it's real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it also makes me wonder, because we look at heart disease, we look at all of the things that are literally stress, like stress is in the foundation of it. And it's like this.
It is.
we can not necessarily that if you talk about your feelings, your like hypertension will go away, but it will. I feel like it will help.
It will.
Yeah.
When I was learning in undergrad about stress, we specifically had like a whole lesson about stress. It literally makes you more susceptible to illness. It absolutely diminishes your immune system, and it can accelerate any disease that you already have.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like stress is absolutely bad for your body. It literally is a disease within itself.
Yeah.
that acts as a catalyst to anything else that you already have going on.
Yeah, I mean that's a testament to the strength that I feel like we underestimate
What
our minds can do. Like
That's what
I
I'm
feel like
saying.
our minds are kind of like the last thing we try to take care of. It's always our bodies with the vitamins and the working out. But it's like when you go home at night after the workout's done, are you okay mentally? Are your thoughts clear? Is your mind clear? Are you good? Your family, they weren't really receptive to what was going on with you until they saw things were affecting you physically or had a professional opinion and to intrude on what was going on. What was your mindset going on when you were explaining to them and they were hearing you but they weren't listening?
It's not that they were hearing me and they weren't listening, it was that I didn't want to say it. I didn't want, because so when I graduated from Harvard, my mom came to the graduation because like, oh my gosh, like the first baby to go to grad school, and oh my gosh, she's an Ivy League baby, so like it was this huge thing where my mom and my brother and my grandparents tried to came, but they came way too late, so they couldn't get parking, so I literally had to drive back to New Jersey. It was mega sad, but I'm like, listen, yeah, I was like, oh, guys, so but when it came down to it, my mom knew that something was wrong long before I ever wanted to talk about it.
Intuition.
Yeah, but mothers, they just know. And I'm like, and she was like, I knew things were off when you were at the graduation and you were trying to celebrate as opposed to just celebrating. And I was like, yo, I really thought I was just celebrating. And there was a day where it was so, thinking about it now, I'm like, yo, this is kind of super cinematic, but mega sad. Because I couldn't walk. I needed like help walking upstairs. I needed help like going to the kitchen. I needed help going to bed. So there was one day where I was sitting in the living room and my mom was like, I was like, Mom, I want to go upstairs. And she was like, I'm not helping you up until you tell me what happened. And I'm like, we don't need to be doing this right now. And she was like, oh no, we're doing this right now. The sun is going down, it's getting dark. And I'm like, I'm tired, I'm frail, I can't, can you bring me up? So she's like, you need to tell me about what happened. What happened in Russia? And I'm like, okay.
So up to this point, they've never heard you tell the story?
No.
That's terrifying.
Nobody
As
heard.
a parent, that's terrifying.
Which I now know. Not that I'm a parent, but like, after hearing my mother's recollection of this moment, she was like, I had no idea.
That's the most terrifying thing about anything we can do to our parents is not let them know what happened, because then their imaginations go everywhere. And they ruminate about it.
Yes. Kind of tangential, but not super tangential. At the same time that I was in Moscow, okay, this might be a mega tangent, but my mom was in Ghana because she had a dream, like a literal dream, and she was like, I need to follow this dream. So she booked a flight to Ghana and was like, I need to see what this dream is going to lead to. And then it led to her discovering, one, that pre-transatlantic slave trade, our maternal line specifically comes from the Asantes, which then created...
That's in West Africa, right?
Yes. Which within the transatlantic slave trade in Jamaica were the Maroons that then created Maroon Town, which was the hub of a lot of Jamaican mythology. And that was where my great grandmother was born. So, and we don't know too much about her line because now we're truly going off of word of mouth, right? Because great grandma's not here anymore. But yeah, so Mom was in Ghana when I was in Russia, and we had one conversation where I truly did not know that she was going to Ghana. She was like, hey Shayna, mind you, my mom is very similar to me. So I gave her a call, or like whatever, we were calling each other. I'm like, oh my goodness, hey mother, how's it going? And she was like, hey Shayna, so I just want to let you know I had a dream this is what happened in the dream. I had to know what was going on. Pastor Kevin's wife let me know that this was a real place, so I just booked a ticket, and now I'm in Ghana. I'm gonna figure out what this dream is. How is Moscow? And I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, I cannot. Like, I'm fine. I was not fine, absolutely not. But I was like, okay, Mom is going on this spiritual journey right now. I can't. Not that I had already had a foundation of having these kinds of conversations with my mom previously, but I'm like, this is clearly not the time. So.
You're very like animated, very bright. Did you use that part of your personality to mask what was really going on? Was that like, this is who you are at your core, but did you use that as a shield to avoid those conversations with your mom that you potentially could have had during that time?
During that time, I think that I've always been the type to use my humor as a means of communicating other things without realizing that I was using humor as a means of communicating other things.
So it happens subconsciously.
Yeah. I think I don't know when it happened, but I realized I was funny, and I realized that people heard me more.
You use humor in your delivery.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just keep doing this.
Exactly.
But like as a kid, that clicked, and then the older I got, I stopped realizing that was why. And then I just kept on rolling with it. So when it came to my mom, I can't say that language of transparency was established, really, because she didn't really have this emotionally open language with her mother. So she didn't really know how to communicate emotional openness with her daughter. So this was new territory for the both of us. And currently, I could say we are living in it very well, very openly.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the panorama has really helped with just having us sit in uncomfortable spaces where it's like, oh, okay, because I'm currently living at home right now. We have to communicate through things. If something doesn't sit well with us, with one of us, then we see the other person walking around. It's like, yo, why are you so quiet? And it's like, oh, well, what you said made me feel da-da-da-da-da. And we have to start talking through things, as opposed to, I was working in the city, I was working in entertainment, I was going away to grad school, I was da-da-da-da. So this time has created a space for us to be significantly more open about how we feel in spaces with each other. Yeah.
So, going back to that time post almost getting kidnapped and assaulted, I feel like prior to that, your comfort with where you were at was an extension of the trust of your neighbors without knowing them, like the people in the surrounding area. You subconsciously trusted them because you felt maybe safe. Because it's just not a normal thing that happens to people. It's not a normal type of behavior. Someone goes out their way to assault you or try to kidnap you. How did you repair your subconscious trust and faith in humanity post that situation? You coming here today, I think, is a prime example of that. You don't know us. You don't know us at all. So how did you feel comfortable enough to step back into society and not feel like at every corner, at every turn, someone would do something to you?
Yeah, like, how did you get yourself back from that? You were literally at the point of stress where it was deteriorating your spinal cord, and now you're in here walking in some amazing pair of Doc Martens and
an amazing coat.
I'm just saying. So how?
Yeah, speak to the entirety of the recovery process, from the physical to the emotional
because we
to
need
the
to know.
social.
Yes, we need to know that side.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is something that I talk much more about in the memoir, but it's really one of those things where you punch a sandcastle down and then so you build a sandcastle up. The sandcastle is you. Some douchebag kid comes along, punches a sandcastle down. You have to look at all of the pieces of sand, not the like clumps, but the individual pieces, and say, what else what can I build from this? I can't build the same sandcastle that was, but how do I reconstruct a thing that makes me happy? So during the whole grad school process, and mind you, I had one professor that was understanding. The others were either oblivious, indifferent, or violently uninterested in what was happening. Like, they said things were spoken. If you would like to know what, I am totally fine sharing that, but that is for another. So when it came to rebuilding myself from the inside out, that didn't really start until I was by myself. And when I say by myself, I mean like I can't move. I can't move. I can't do anything to distract myself from the fact that I can't literally feel myself. So it really started from the simple question of who am I? And when I couldn't answer that question for myself, about myself, that was when the answers from my family started to come up. Where it was, oh, okay, who am I? I am the daughter of. I am the granddaughter of. I am the great-granddaughter of. And then the power of that gave me the courage to start figuring out, oh, okay, so with all of these people that have literally comprised me, who am I? And with that, and mind you, copious therapy. The only way that I could have survived grad school was, do you know EMDR therapy? So I can't remember what the exact breakdown is, but
It's like with electro pulses.
Yes. So I had to do that. It's something that is very that has been proven very helpful for people with more severe or PTSD, and also
Electrocompulsive treatment, I think is something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, I know what you mean though.
So I was doing cognitive therapy with this white lady that didn't have any clue what to do with me.
Right.
I was coming into therapy like so drunk.
You didn't have a choice in your therapist?
Not. I mean, to a degree, but there wasn't, because I was a grad student. There were therapists within the school that you could not necessarily choose from, but they would match you. And I was matched with this one therapist, and she did not know what to do with me. And so I just went in with a very specific kind of energy. And she was just like, all right, we're gonna put you on a medication that will help you sleep because you're clearly not sleeping, and we're gonna let this medication match with the fact that you are drinking way too much to fall asleep, and da 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 da. And I was like, oh, okay, fantastic, thank you very much. She's like, is there anything you would like to talk about? And I was like, not to you. And so that was just that relationship until, I don't know how EMDR therapy came up, but I went to this therapist that specialized in EMDR, and that was where the breakthrough started to happen, where because the magic of EMDR is that you go through the experiences that traumatized you in a way that prevents you from disassociating. So that way your body registers that these are just words. This is not an experience that you are reliving, but these are just words, and you can walk through these words in a way that
won't trigger you physically.
Yes, or it can trigger you physically in this moment, but then you work through that triggering with a professional. So that was something that was that, and the fact that some of my grad school cohort knew what was going on to a degree and partnered alongside me. So like after I had a really intense session and I couldn't be alone, they're like, oh hey, we got this extra bedroom.
I love it.
Oh hey, like if you need, like one person had an apartment really close to the therapist, the EMDR therapist. So they were like, hey, if this is really intense, come over, sleep in the bed, we could talk about it, we could have snacks, and then if you want to go home, that's totally fine. If you want to go over to the extra bed at one of our friends' places, that's totally fine. Like that kind of thing helped me to slowly, that was the beginning of me slowly finding my way out to being functional. And then the conversations about who am I when my body had deteriorated was the beginnings of me finding a new ground post madness. Yeah. That was a very long answer to your
No, it was great,
It was
and I'm
detailed.
just
It
trying to
was
really
very good.
very decide like where I want. Like, so during those moments when you're spending time with like your friends and people like that, and you're repeating your story, whether it's in therapy, whether it's through your friendships. Like, the more you repeat it and the more you speak about it, it naturally became easier to accept. Like, was there ever a moment where you started to identify as your experience? Like, did you feel like there was maybe something wrong with you that led to that experience? Like, how did you, like, the acceptance phase of it all overall, was that maybe the hardest part to deal with?
I don't think for me, the acceptance wasn't hard. I am one of those people where wild things happen often. So I was just, I'm used to wild things happening. So when this wild thing happened, it's not that I accepted it as just as just an effect of my life, and I think the fact that because there were multiple attacks that had happened during my time in Moscow, but the first attack that happened was interestingly enough by a Black Moscovian man.
Wow.
Yeah, it blew I didn't know what was happening, and the only word in English that I understood from what he was saying, like at this point I knew enough Russian to be able to understand generally what people were saying, but this person, because they were the first person, and mind you, it's Moscow, it's not like there's a whole lot of sunlight, so I was mega pale, and when it comes to the food, there's not a whole lot of additives in it, so my hair just got real big, real long. And looking at myself, I was like, oh, I look mega mixed right now. So I was walking down the street one day, coming from a Krispy Kreme, and this guy he was just yelling, and I was like, yo, somebody needs to answer this guy. So I keep walking, and he keeps yelling, and I was like, I don't know who he's talking to, but he needs to, whoever they are, stop being a problem. And then he goes, hey, mulatto. And I'm like, oh no, I think this might be a me thing. Mind you, I'm not mixed.
No, it's just light skin.
I'm just like, at this point I was like mega light skin. At this point I'm like, currently I'd like to say I'm like a gentle caramel. But at that point I was like, oh, okay, he could be talking to me.
Right.
So I turn and I look at him, and that was the beginning. And things just kind of spiraled from there real fast. So from that point on, I just associated me being targeted to this really contorted idea of people assuming I'm mixed. Thus, the white community and the Black community feel like I am just enough them to be touchable. Just enough. So that way it's not disrespectful, but touchable on both ends. So I didn't know who to run from for a couple of months. And that truly just started this whirlwind in my mind of,
You can't even trust another black person.
yeah, and
That's
there's
hard. You're already
there's not a lot of us in
exactly.
Moscow.
So you're already in a different country that's predominantly white. So you would hope that at least when you see another black person, that you can confide in them. Maybe
Like the unspoken camaraderie.
Mhm.
yeah, the unspoken
Yeah.
camaraderie between you two, and instead it could be another perpetrator.
Yeah.
That fucks with your psyche.
Yeah.
That
Yo.
anxiety, I can't even imagine.
It was buck wild.
You're
And
probably paranoid as fuck.
the stress was which makes, looking back, it makes sense why my body had the reaction that it had, because mind you, it's Moscow. We have all of these, as U.S. citizens, or like people that live in the U.S., we have all of these ideas of Russia, and then you come to the U.S., then it's like black people getting murdered, and it's like, oh, where do I go to rest? And then where? And then that just continued until my body was like, I think I'm gonna take a strong time out.
How long were you there exactly in Moscow?
Only 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That was a long 3 months for you.
That was the
imagine.
longest 3 months of my whole life. My whole life.
And when you came back to America, I guess the stress was still very prevalent, and the illnesses, the physical ailments were prevalent as well.
Not immediately.
Not immediately.
Not immediately. Mm-mm.
I guess yeah.
They were progressive.
They were progressive, yeah.
Kind of like, so I came back from Moscow around June of 2016. And then I went through my second year of school, which ended around May, June of 2017, which was truly just me suppressing for a full year. Processing to a degree, but mostly suppressing, but very actively. And then when school ended, have you ever just been held so tight that the moment that it releases, you just feel your ribs expand and go,
Yeah.
So it was the that left me, that created the space for the autoimmune attack, is what I feel anyway. It was the relaxation of, oh, okay, I'm out of here. That created the space for, oh, okay. Now since you're relaxed and all of this trauma has happened internally, now this trauma has the space to take form because it hasn't fully been resolved.
What did you learn about yourself on the other end of all this? I think what I've learned is you're one of the strongest individuals I think I've ever met. To survive the mental trauma that transformed into some physical ailments, but it got to a point where you couldn't even walk. I'm sure you recognize that part of it, but is there anything else you may have learned about yourself on the other end of this?
Absolutely. I learned that there is no shame in asking for help. There is no shame with being honest about weakness, about saying, I can't do it. Like, I'm tired. I'm so tired. And I think that is a thing that, especially in the Black community, there's so much talk, specifically with like Black femmes. It's like, you're the strong, independent Black woman who don't need no man. And it's like, but what if I don't want to be?
Yeah.
And I love that you said that, because I literally have had this conversation before with a couple people online, and I agree with that. It's like, I understand you want to be a Black independent woman. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't criticize the woman that's all right with having a man help her, or just relying on another individual to support you. Like, because there's men who want to play that role.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was talking to him, remember we had this conversation not too long ago where I had to realize what type of woman I would more likely be in a relationship with. And it's somebody who can allow me to play that role when they need it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like taking care of a woman. I like, you know what I'm saying, being there for you. I want you to depend on me for certain things. It gives me value. And as a man, as an alpha male, it makes me feel powerful, but not in a controlling way, but in a way of capability.
I feel like that should be reciprocated though. Like, it shouldn't just be like, we shouldn't be searching for just for that one type of energy, right?
Not.
Like naturally we should all want to depend on our partner if we need to be.
Right.
Like, cause I'm not the strongest all the time,
Right.
and neither will she be. But like, we need to know that we need to recognize in our community and just the world in general that, like you said, it's okay to not really be okay. It's not okay to be the strongest all the time because we are not. We cannot be. It's not possible.
Interdependence. That's what it should be. Interdependence.
Right.
Where you guys
Yeah.
are both helping each other, and it's like two pieces of a puzzle, right? The things that I might not be good at, you might be great at. So it might really just be the best way to combine our forces to move forward. Like, I don't know.
Shit, as a whole community, I think we should be doing that. Like, we should be able to just toss aside the fucking ego.
Yes, that's the biggest problem. It's the ego.
And ego, pride, all that. Do you think you suffer from that? Like a bit of ego and pride and holding your experiences so tightly that you feel like possibly no one could even relate or even accept what you've been through?
I don't think that it's ego, and I mean, I don't want to talk about I don't want to like speak for the whole Black community, but I think that a really big thing that we we have not been practicing the language for, mostly because a lot of us haven't been taught it, is vulnerability, and just how terrifying that is. Because it's not that, I don't think that a part of it was the pride in me that was like, I don't want people to know just how broken I am. But I think a bigger part of it was the vulnerability of, I don't want people to see just how broken I am in this moment. I want people to look at me and say, like, yo, she did it. Yo, she went to Harvard. Yo, she look at that. But then after a point, there's nowhere to hide. Like when you're wearing the same robe for 3 weeks in a row, and you're sitting in the kitchen counter, and you got ragu bottles full of warm water under your feet because you can't feel your feet, and you need something to rejuvenate warmth into your feet. There's no pride in that. It's just, listen, it is what it is.
That's so humbling.
And it was so humbling. It was so humbling. And it got me into the practice of saying, I'm not all right. And I'm going to need some help on a daily basis.
There's really nothing wrong with that. Because when people feel like they don't need help or they feel like they know it all, it's just you're stopping yourself from being greater. Because that relationship that you could build from that, whoever it is that can help you, it can make whatever you're trying to do bigger. You know what I'm saying? Like, in all aspects of life, there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember who you were before that situation? Is it a reflection of who you are today in this moment?
I would like to say that I was a chaos monster before that.
Toxic?
No, a chaos monster.
What's that though? Like, is that a reflection of toxicity?
It was a reflection of. It was toxic. Okay, so it was a reflection of, I lived in a space where I knew relatively the consequences of being Black in those spaces. And so I maneuvered those spaces in a way that created entertainment for myself. And then the dangerous thing with that was once you tell somebody, okay, here we go. So I didn't practice acting pre this moment. So I can't remember if I said this or not, but you can edit this out if you so choose.
No editing.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, here we go.
Giving it raw.
So before I went to the American Repertory Theater for this acting master's program, I can't really say I had an acting background. And it's because the program that I went to before actively pushed actors of color away. I don't know if you guys know what the show Rent is.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so the show Rent is pretty much talks about people of color, not only people of color, but mostly people of color during the AIDS epidemic. And they had an all-white production of
Usually how it goes.
That's how it went. While people of color were auditioning. So that's a summary of the program that I was a part of. So I got accepted into Harvard for acting shortly after auditioning for that production and being dismissed. To which I was like, one, I was the first student of my university to get admitted into an Ivy League program for a humanities master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say chaos monster, I mean my undergraduate institution could not fail me.
Mm-hmm.
They technically could have, but I was the first.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't tell me nothing about nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm gonna do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
You can try to tell me something,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean I have to listen to you.
And that goes back to what you were saying about you feeling like you were special because you were the one black.
Exactly.
The token.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So not only was I the first student in general, but now I am the black representative
Yeah.
of Harvard University. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can do whatever I want. So thus I became a chaos monster. Because who was going to tell me stop? How dare you?
Is that a reflection of your ego?
Absolutely.
Oh, that was full blown Leo Moon.
I was about to say
That was
that
full
the whole
blown Leo
time.
Just
Moon.
making sure.
The whole time, that's
Making
what I was
sure.
saying. I'm like, that's the Leo Moon. The whole time.
Whole
I was
time.
just like, that's the Leo Moon.
That accountability.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, thank you. And yes, you are absolutely correct. That was giving Leo Moon the stage, the mic, full hair and makeup, and saying, "Live your best life. You got 45 minutes."
Oh, and when you're done, we got paparazzi outside.
Be sure to look surprised.
Work on your shocked face.
Truly. So I lived my chaotic monster best life for a full year. For a full year. The full year before the attempted kidnapping.
And that's what I was just about to say. So it's just, life is so ironic, and the lessons that we learn are so deliberate. Everything you went through in Russia humbled you. And in comparison to how you were before that, it was a necessary process in your character development. Do you feel that way, or do you not feel that way?
I'm hesitant to say necessary.
Not necessary, but it was a
It played
contributor,
a part.
a factor.
It was absolutely a factor
So not
in
necessary,
the.
wrong word.
No, you're good.
I wish it went differently, by the way.
Of course, because
Wait.
that's fucking trauma.
Because
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
how you went about it. But again, God provides His test.
That's what I'm saying.
Testimony.
Like, yo, to me, that's just the way I see it. It's like the universe puts you through that to make you a better person. Like, it's almost as if, I don't know, that's just my perception.
And like you said,
everything.
you were able to walk through this door post that
Yeah.
and talk about that.
Yeah.
And you're talking about it with really no hesitation.
You literally knew what it was like to be at the top. You were at the tippy. And then you knew exactly what it felt like to be at the fucking rock bottom. Like, I'm talking beneath Patrick's rock. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Rock bottom.
rock bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. If I were to look at myself as a character per se, like a character in a book,
Yeah.
the plot line, it makes sense
Yes.
objectively.
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey. But when it comes to, and I feel like you both agree with this, but when it comes to trauma, I don't feel like any trauma is necessary.
No.
It's just it's something that unfortunately people have to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when it comes to, I feel like there's a very dangerous middle ground of processing trauma where there's a conversation that keeps coming up where people are like, oh yeah, I survived this because I was strong enough to XYZ. And it's like, no, baby. You survived this because you had to. not because you were strong enough to, but if you did not survive this, you would die. And your body told you, we're not dying today. So there have been some people that have reached out to me, not that I've shared my entire story, but that have heard pieces of it, or that have seen posts of like, you know, my autoimmune in like blood infusions. And they're like, Shayna, I want to be as strong as you. And I'm like, oh, no, baby. I am as strong as I have to be, not as strong as I want to be. And this is like the touchy part that a lot of, especially people that are very spiritual, specifically very Christian, where I'm like, be careful what you pray for.
Right.
If you're out there praying for patience, oh, you gonna get patience. You gonna learn some patience today. If you're out there, don't pray for strength unless you're ready to be as weak as humanly possible, and then you're gonna get an extra 35 pounds on that bar lift. And it's like, okay, well, can you lift it? Because if you can't lift it, then clearly you're not strong enough. So get them quads into it. So when it comes to trauma, nobody is necessarily strong, and you are as strong as you have to be to survive. That's pretty much it, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah.
It's like you're going to rise to the occasion no matter what it might take, because automatically we're innately built to not let ourselves die. Like, we don't just give up, fight or flight, right? We're either gonna fight or we're gonna run, but either way we're trying to survive.
Yeah,
I get it.
I think from my experience in life, being at my lowest of lows, I think the negativity was necessary. Because literally from nothing, in that moment where I felt like nothing, came everything. I was able to really see clearly what I needed to do to get out of that hole and where to move next in order to change my life. So while I think it's just, maybe it's a case by case situation, but for me personally, I think I needed to be at that rock bottom.
For me too.
To be at the top of Mount.
I agree with that. For me, I feel like, granted, I don't like ever comparing people's pain. Like, right?
Definitely.
Everybody's like trauma and experiences are their own. You know, life's subjective. But I feel like the things that I went through, definitely there is beauty in the suffering. There is beauty in all of it. Like, just real quick, for some of the things you probably don't know, like, I went through homelessness in my senior year, going into my senior year of high school. I was institutionalized hospitalized into the mental institution like 3 different times because I was just super stressed, went through temporary psychosis, went through mad different things. My dad tried to commit suicide, like just mad different things that built the character and the ability to reach mental and spiritual peace in my adulthood. And I'm still healing from a lot of things, but I've came so far. And I really, really think sometimes you can't connect the dots until you're looking back. And I feel like everything that I went through literally has prepared me for everything. I'm like, all the blessings that I'm accepting in my life today.
And because we're so far removed from those dark moments, it's like we can clearly see the differences between who we are today and who we were.
Yes.
Literally different people.
Yes. Like, I felt like everything I went through had to happen in order for me to have this perception. Because I was a spoiled, rotten kid when I was little. I'm an only child. You know, at that time, we owned a 2-family house. My parents were both working. And, you know, they're immigrants from Haiti. But going into, like, the age 11 and up, we was broke. Broke. All right? And that humbled me. That entire journey of watching my parents struggle and watching my parents, you know, literally, I remember having to eat peanut butter and bread for breakfast. Yeah. Hot dog bread. It was fucking disgusting.
Hot dog bread?
Yeah, because we didn't have regular sliced bread. Yeah.
Oh, like okay, I got you.
And I felt like all that shit, like, it was all necessary. It makes me so grateful for every little thing that I have now. And it's like, looking at my life now, you would never know where I started. But because I went through that, I'll never forget it. You know what I'm saying? And I carry that with me. It keeps me humble. No matter how successful I get, how much money I see in my bank account, I'm always going to fucking remember that in 2012 when I came out of the fucking hospital and I was eating fucking peanut butter and hot dog bread for breakfast, and I was sleeping on a pallet on the floor that was infested with bed bugs. I had no money, no clothes, no nothing. That shit built me, yo.
Yeah. I mean, you know my story. I mean, like, I just super depressed, suicidal every single day, not wanting to be here, insecurities, all that. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Now that I'm like kind of even more further removed from like who I was, I realized a lot of my part in staying there as long as I did. When you're so trapped in the darkness that depression, anxiety conjure, you don't even look for a way out, but there is one.
Yes. Do you think it's because I feel that depression can be paralyzing?
Yeah.
There's just a certain level of heaviness that transfers from your mental to your physical.
I was my experiences.
Oh.
I identified as my depression, and honestly, as my transition, as I started to transition out of it, I felt uncomfortable because that's all I knew. I felt like I used to call my depression a sibling. I feel like I lost a part of me when I lost my depression, and that's all I identified as. And I realized, looking back, that I had all the necessary tools. I had a loving mother that I didn't accept. I had a caring grandmother that I didn't really want as present in my life. I had friends that I didn't really let them in as close as I should have. And it was all my choice. I chose to be there. And then I made the choice to get out. So while I don't want to give the audience an impression that you can live that way, you're strong enough to make the same choices you have to make decisions in your life that apply to you. But for me, I made that choice to live there, and I made the choice to get out. And it's really, everyone's strength level is different. Everyone's faith is different, and I just think everyone, if you're feeling it, you're like at that crossroads between like light and darkness, and you're walking that middle road. You gotta make a choice at some point, because you can't just live in the middle. You gotta pick a side. You gotta pick what side of life you want to be on. And I'm just grateful that I chose the lighter side, because that was really bad. I mean, you know.
I do. I mean.
Oh, were you guys did you guys know each other during these times? I'm still learning you guys. So were you guys friends during these times, or is this friendship relatively new?
We were doing this show when we were going through all those things.
Still depressed, masking it like a motherfucker.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the audience will never know what was going on when the mics turned off.
Oh wow.
And we used to have powwows after every episode. We had 2 other co-hosts at the time, and after every episode, we'd be outside smoking and just talking about all the shit that we're dealing with. Like, it was a therapeutic process for like the first 2 years that I was doing the show. That's all it was. It was just a therapy session. That's what it felt like. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course we had our funny moments, and it was always lively.
Crying on episodes, literally.
There was some,
there was some
tears.
Our most popular episode for the year of 2019 was the episode I cried. I broke down.
Yeah.
It was so real. It was so candid.
Yeah.
But healing is a community process. You can't heal on your own.
And people need to understand that. Because that's where the pride and ego comes into play, where you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable because you're afraid of being judged and perceived as weak. That perception is the biggest reason why people in our community don't heal. They're afraid of being perceived as weak. And I don't know what it is, maybe because of past traumas. And I was just going to say, past traumas, it must be the slave PTSD that just innately makes us not want to show any type of vulnerability or weakness because we feel we're going to get taken advantage of. But that's what that's connected to.
But think about the ones who prey on the Black community. Like, if they were to sense weakness, it's like a bloodhound can pick up that scent of weakness. So we have to be strong. We have to stay on defense, because literally every single day our life can be taken away from us without any say so. So it's like we have to present ourselves to society as these strong individuals, but that kind of turns into a negative reflection to our personal lives, because we don't know how to really properly communicate. We don't know how to properly respect each other. So it's like we don't.
To which I ask, were you guys allowed to be sensitive, to be, I don't want to say weak, but to be vulnerable growing up? Because I feel like a lot of this language is stuff that we learned very little. This idea of, okay, to be Black is to be strong, and to be strong is to be impenetrable to the world around you. So, don't look a cop in the eye, but also you better know that you're strong. Were you guys allowed that space? Because I feel like a lot of people, myself included, because this whole language of this emotional vocabulary that I currently have was not necessarily something that my mom knew that she wanted to raise her kids in a way outside of how she was raised, but she did not know what that meant. So she was just like, I'm gonna try something new.
Yeah.
But so I was raised in a space where it was like, oh, okay, so how do you feel? Are you sad? Why? But when it came to the things that were much more sensitive to me, like middle school and the terrible things that happened there and all these, I didn't necessarily have the words for that level of sadness. So how did you, and so I didn't feel like I had the space to communicate that because mind you, I grew up in non-Black spaces. So I didn't know how to communicate that in Black spaces. Did you guys feel like you had words? Do you guys feel like you had the space to be vulnerable growing up?
I don't feel like I did, because like my dad is the stereotypical Caribbean man, and to this day, like he'll talk about specifically his anger. You know, he won't specifically, and he'll break down about his sadness when it's reached a certain level, right? But typically, anytime I was going through something and I was, let's say, venting to him about it, it was just always the typical, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. Just, don't give up. Like, of course that helped, but it didn't really teach me how to deal with those emotions or those thoughts or those insecurities. I never felt like I had that emotional space to talk about that with my parents. And then my mom, she wasn't really that emotional herself. She was a very reserved individual. Plus, their relationship was already toxic between them, so they weren't even thinking of my emotional and mental health, really, because they were dealing with their own. Both of them were suffering from chronic depression. So I grew up in a family where everybody had their own shit going on. And now that I think about it, that's a big reason why I always feel triggered when I feel ignored. But, yeah.
We can do a deep dive into that later if you so choose, but also
I would like to, because we have to get past that.
Yeah,
we have to really
I have to get past that. That's really a problem for me. Like, I get triggered. Like, if somebody leaves me on red, like, it literally hurts my feelings. No, like, that's not healthy. Like, it literally hurts my feelings, and I know that's not healthy.
But to answer your question, for me, I'm pretty sure I had that space available, but I was so wrapped up on depression at such an early age. As soon as I was able to recognize that I wasn't like my peers and I didn't grow up in a two-parent home, as soon as I was able to recognize, like, when I would watch TV and I didn't see the family that was presented to me in my home, I immediately developed depression, and I'm pretty sure the resources were available to me, but it was very I feel like I'm getting to know my mom now more in adulthood than I did in childhood. Yeah. So I would always isolate myself. I would always resist her affection. I feel like I put my frustration of not having a father and my anger that I would want to put towards him on her. And I really disliked interacting with her because it felt uncomfortable. It felt like getting to know a stranger because she would work a lot growing up. My grandmother kind of really raised me a portion of my life because she was too busy working trying to provide. And I interpreted that as her not. I interpreted the separation of my father leaving my mother when she was pregnant with me and extending into my mom working a lot as her projecting her, I don't want to say frustration, or I took her working a lot as a way to not be around me. I thought she probably felt upset at me, my existence, even being alive, and putting blame on me for my father not being around. I don't know what the extent of the relationship was, but I know you don't not love someone or feel connected to someone you have a baby with, whether you're planned or not. Sex is is an intimate act. So I took her working a lot as not wanting to be around me because she felt upset that I was the reason why my father wasn't around. So this is all overthinking at such a young age, and me creating this reality I lived in for so long. I really avoided any type of interaction with any member of my family, and I didn't really start to express myself and communicate until I made friends and maybe honestly freshman year of high school.
And that's what I was just gonna agree with totally. That's who I emotionally confided in.
Yeah.
My boys. Like growing up, my friends were like my brothers. Like I've broken down in front of them. Like everything. Like that's who I went to for my emotional expressive. I just had to talk to them because I felt like more comfortable. I'm an only child, just like he's an only child.
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't have any brothers or sisters who could relate to the things that I was going through. I had to search outside of myself for that connection. Especially it's crazy how you say like in 9th grade, because that's when I had my first anxiety attack.
Mm.
And that's when I first started smoking weed.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
And
my first suicide attempt.
damn, 15 was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree with that. I mean, friends, man, that's why to this day I take friendship so serious. Like you can ask this guy, like my friends know when they need me, I'm popping up. We might not talk every day, we might not hang out every weekend, but when you call me, I'm definitely popping up. I'm there for you. I'm holding you down. Like that's my type of loyalty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's because I know when I need somebody to talk to, I need somebody to hear me, I can call these people. Like I can call Jeff.
You literally just called me yesterday.
And we
Oh.
can have
Literally.
and just tell him what the fuck's going on, and without any judgment and with absolute objective advice. And that's what you need sometimes.
Mm.
And I don't underestimate that.
And I want to, like, the camaraderie between males and women, especially in the Black community, it's a bit disjointed.
Yeah.
And I think we need to open that space and open that door for our women in our community as well.
Yes, we can heal
Like-
each other so much if we can just talk. The men and the women in the Black community, if we just talk
Yes.
without ego, without
Intention, like hidden
Yes.
motives, like
if we could just be humble enough to just lay everything out and just be honest.
Listen, I want this so bad.
Yeah.
I want this so bad. And it hurts so much. Like, outside of the whole Russia thing, because I'm so appreciative of having this conversation with you guys. Because, like, for multiple reasons, but for this particular reason, I really have been craving Black camaraderie, right? Not only within the Corona landscape, but like, because within everything that you're talking about, something that, and mind you, I don't know if this is something that you guys have experienced, but this is absolutely something that I've experienced when it comes to not only dating, but like trying to find camaraderie across the gender aisle of like Black people. There's this really weird thing that comes up where I don't know, like colorism is really big, and for some reason like colorism keeps coming up whenever I try to make friends.
Really?
Yeah, like in a very blatant way. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a way of trying to make friends. I don't know if this is a weird I'm trying to like make a joke, but I crave these kinds of conversations, and I crave these kinds of spaces, but I don't know if the fact that I'm a woman and I just happen to like, I mean, Black comes in all kinds of shades.
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is a thing. I can imagine that people do treat you a certain type of way because you're light skinned. And they might look at you because they might assume that you're mixed. They assume all these things about you because you're lighter, and it's so unfair. It really is.
I think that's part of it.
I've seen it. Like, because my mom is light skinned, and she's had to deal with that. And, like, it's unfortunate because, I mean, dark skinned girls get polarized as well. You know, it just depends on what side you're coming from. But I've seen it, and that colorism thing, I hate it. It's so ignorant. It's so ignorant. It's so ignorant.
I think for me, when I've had trouble connecting with both women and men, it's just my personality. I realized a long time ago that I'm not like everybody else. I own my uniqueness, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's really hard for people. I think social media also made it. Social media has birthed like a whole awkward generation.
It's a whole
communication has literally changed, right, in this last decade. And I think, based off what I've seen and experienced with you this far, I think you're very, very bright and very animated. You're very genuine. And I think
thank you.
the people who may resist that, I think they're doing you a favor.
They're not for you.
Yeah, they're doing you a favor.
Like, fuck them.
Yeah. So
like,
I don't want you to feel like disgruntled or disappointed. I think they're doing you a favor because if they're not accepting you off rip, then they're not for you.
and you're craving the right things. You want to get more in touch with your culture, and you want to learn more about, and you want to have those relationships with other black people, and you want that. There's nothing wrong with craving that. There's nothing wrong with that. So don't ever feel like you're doing anything wrong. These are just people who, for some reason, might not be as accepting, or because I don't know if you've dealt with this, but I've dealt with people when I was growing up. They would be like, "Oh, you talk like a white boy."
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I can imagine you probably heard that a lot, and it's like, no, I just like to read. Like, no,
nigga, I'm intelligent. You're a dummy.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I hate that we associate being articulate with being white. There's intelligent black people all over the fucking world, and we all speak proper English. We can speak well. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a whole nother story within itself. But I can imagine that being targeted for those things that it's just so superficial and stupid. You're looking for a deeper connection, a deeper understanding, and don't stop. Because you've aligned with us now, and you're gonna end up being our friend. Because you're fucking awesome.
Oh my
We're
god, I
friends.
would love to be your
We're actually friends.
I'm not saying this anymore. I'm not saying this just to be on the fucking air.
No,
Like, no,
definitely
that ass. Like, I definitely want to connect with you outside of the show because
You have no idea how happy that makes me. Like, continue.
Seriously.
Literally, what you craved, you manifested.
Yes.
You didn't even know.
Oh my God,
Understand
we're
that
here.
your thoughts
You know
are
what I mean?
magnetic. Your thoughts are magnetic, and you summoned us. And here we are.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yes. We're here.
Yay. Okay.
Whatever you need.
Yes, we're friends now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, phase one, thank you guys so much for being my friend. It is very hard to make new friends in a pandemic, as I think everybody has realized. But one, I'm super appreciative, and I really want to bond when it's like safe to bond in like outside spaces. We must do brunch. Bottomless brunch. I am here for bottomless
I love
brunch.
brunch.
You may have to carry me out the spot. I do tend to get a little too fucked up.
Oh my god, you do not understand. I can't say that I got you because I tend to go way too far on bottomless brunch, but I'm here for whatever may happen.
What is the point of drinking if you're not feeling? Like, or doing anything? Like, if any experience in life, what is the point if you're not feeling anything from it?
Okay, so I feel like we're gonna bond it. I'm so sorry, this is a Libra moment.
Enjoy.
Like, you are more than welcome to come. My like moon, it draws you in, but Libra moment. So there's this place. I don't think that it's open anymore. It's called Jeet Jet. Like, did you eat yet?
That's clever as fuck.
Yo,
It better be open.
It's not open anymore because of COVID.
Oh.
It's so upsetting. This place was le shit.
Thanks, COVID.
I'm so upset. So, this place had bottomless brunch. And when I say goblet mimosas, I mean goblet mimosas. And all I can say is that we had brunch and I went to sleep at maybe 2:30.
Perfect.
And I didn't wake up until the next day.
Oh, that's
And
scary.
then my friends / cousins and brother continued on. They ended up, G-Jet is in Brooklyn. Somehow they ended up in New Jersey.
Okay.
My brother woke up with a whole chicken leg in his pocket.
And specifically in his pocket?
In his pocket the next morning.
Trying to save it for later?
Hell yeah! They went out to go boxes. What you talking about?
Steve, I'm so sorry. Steve woke up with a whole chicken leg in his pocket the next morning. And we're like getting out ready to go. And Steve's like, yo, what's in my pocket? And he pulls out a fried chicken leg. And I'm like, one, this is disrespectful to our ancestors. But two, why you got a whole chicken leg in your pocket?
You asked the wrong questions. I would ask you have another one.
Oh my god.
Like, are you kidding me? You asked the wrong question.
Yeah. Would you have eaten?
Yes.
You're a
okay.
savage.
Oh, wait. Am I being judged by my own people?
Uh-oh. No,
when
it's
you
not.
When you hungover and when you feeling some type of way and you hungry, I'm like,
sorry.
I am now.
It's a cold chicken leg in a Levi's jeans
That's what I'm
pocket.
saying. There's
Like-
hella lint on that shit. I am not eating a piece of chicken that came out your pocket, Jeff.
I'm gonna save this for Patreon.
I don't care how drunk I am.
I'm gonna save this for Patreon, but I've had some experiences eating food out of places I shouldn't have eaten.
All right.
It's okay. This is the honesty hour.
All right.
Not that honest.
Vulnerability.
You know, when you're.
Vulnerability.
Yeah. This has been a really. I didn't have. Okay, so in every podcast, I don't come with certain expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't come with like an ideal situation for it, but I honestly think you're incredible, and I'm happy that you're.
back.
I'm happy that you're here.
Yeah, you have to come back.
Oh my god!
No, I'm not even saying that to be funny. Like, you gotta come back. Seriously.
Oh my god! No, truly, I would love that.
You have to.
No, but like I'm genuinely happy that you're still here amongst everything you experienced, because I know I know it wasn't easy. But I just want you to know that through any situation like you may encounter, whether it be small or minor, we will be in your corner. And I genuinely appreciate you being here and joining us on the show tonight, honestly.
Thank you so much. I know that we are now IG friends. I need to find you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, I got you.
And then we could be like friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Friends.
I'm gonna tag you in some random shitty memes. I hope you're ready.
I'm so ready for some random terrible memes.
Yeah.
Like I'm here for truly all of it.
I can't wait.
I can't wait.
So amazing, yo. Like, she's really a dope individual. Thank you for bringing her here.
Thank you, Clubhouse. Thank you, Clubhouse. Yeah.
Sponsored by Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, if you out
No.
there, you should sponsor this podcast.
Please, Clubhouse.
Literally.
Fucking rich bastards got $1 billion and don't want to fucking support a black creator.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Full disclosure, this podcast is not sponsored by Clubhouse. So if you out there, we just saying.
Well, you're about to be like a rich writer soon, so you can like come back and double back and sponsor the podcast, right?
I would absolutely love to be a rich writer that could invest in this podcast.
Manifestation.
Manifestation. I am going to be a rich writer.
No, you are.
Definitely gonna be a rich
You
writer.
are a rich writer.
Oh my god. I
That's
mean,
intense.
okay. I'm gonna practice saying this because I'm not. I want to believe that it will happen. I'm currently not a rich writer.
You're already fucking
That
up.
is gonna-
You're already
Oh my god. Okay, I'm so sorry.
Speak
okay,
with
we're
intent.
Okay. Ignore everything that I just said. Okay.
We're teaching you how to be master manifestors.
I am here for it. I need to learn how to be a master
We
manifester.
can help you.
Oh my god, is
Yeah.
this happening?
Proof
It's
of
like
concept. I literally got a #1 book on Amazon in 3 categories. I say that humbly, of course.
Yo.
But I did do that. I spoke into existence over 4 years of saying it repeatedly.
Made
But
it happen.
I'm
that's a different story. Please shout out where people can find you and support you, and just continue to see what's next for you.
Okay. Real quick, there's another burp that is in my throat. I'm so sorry.
Please, just let it out.
It's
No,
not
into the mic
coming
next time.
Yeah, we need to like
Oh,
hear
no,
it. Is it
no.
groundbreaking or not?
No, it's like right in you know that little like U thing right in like the bottom of your throat? It's like
In the middle of your collarbone.
yeah, like you know how like Goofy has like that little apple that goes like yuck
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
That's my burp. So it's not coming out, but I just wanted to let everybody know that it's there.
Okay.
So you can find me on Instagram at Shayna RC. That is my personal Instagram. I also own a newsletter called Heart to Arts. So that is also, you can find it at at heart.2.arts on Instagram. This is a newsletter where we talk about diversity issues in entertainment, wellness for the Black community, but also for everybody, and anti-racism, practical applications for radical self-care, and also promoting US-based Black business owners. So that is there. You can follow that specific newsletter at not only the IG, but specifically through the newsletter at hearttoarts.substack.com. If you would, oh my gosh, okay, so you guys don't know this. This is the beginning of a totally different thing, but it's fine. I'm gonna drop this right here. I'm actually going to be a star in a pilot to-be series that is coming out really soon that is specifically about Black mental health.
Wow.
I know, I'm so excited, and
I need your autograph now so I can settle later.
oh my god, it's happening. Like, I'm not gonna say too much about that. I think there's another podcast that I'm going to be like talking more about that specifically with the creator pretty soon. But yeah, so that's going to be happening. I'll be dropping more information about that on my personal IG. What else is happening? I feel like that might be it. I don't know.
They'll follow you, and everything you said will be in the description of this episode, and they'll see what's next for you. Which I'm sure is plenty.
Thank you.
CR, do you have anything you want to shout out specifically before we get out of here?
For everybody listening to the sound of my voice, do yourself a favor and follow me on Instagram at CR_908. Oh yeah, and by the way, Out the Trenches is out right now.
Yes, sir.
Doing numbers. You feel me?
Yeah. That's it?
Oh.
Yeah, and last but certainly not least, my first book, The Avenue, A Personal Dictionary, is out now on Amazon only right now, sold out on Barnes & Noble. The ebook version is 99 cents right now, and the paperback is $10. I was going to do the sale for a week, but I'm just going to fucking keep it for as long as people want it to be. And if you're interested in getting a free copy of either both the paperback or ebook, just DM me on Instagram at TheApp360 or Twitter, THT, that ambitious guy, and let me know if you want a free copy, and I'll represent it to you. And as always, go to introvertedpod.com for all inquiries and bookings and merchandise related to Introverted Intuition Podcast. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Shayna, for
Yo,
coming on the
you guys
podcast.
are so good at your outros. So good. Inspirational. Hashtag inspo.
I'm flattered.
Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.
Great.
Yo, that was
That was my favorite podcast of 2021.
That should
Yeah.
I didn't even know 2 hours went by.